Good evening. An elderly man is dead following a fire at a retirement home in North York.
The blaze broke out late last night. Fire officials now working to determine the cause. CTV's Janice Golding has been following the investigation and joins us live with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Natalie. Yes, a man in his 80s who was rushed to hospital in critical condition last night after a fire at this Bathurst and Finch retirement home has died of his injuries. There were no outward signs of fire at a North York retirement residence today.
These units are small units, and it was contained to the living area of the unit.
A small fire, say fire officials, and yet,
unfortunately, that occupant has succumbed to their injuries.
Emergency responders say they received calls about a two-alarm blaze just before 10:30 p.m. And when they arrived on scene, they were directed to the 4th floor of the building.
We responded with multiple crews to the fire, and we are directed to the floors where the smoke was. They made contact with the occupant in their unit, and the rescue was made down to the lobby where patient care was transferred to paramedics.
The man in his 80s would die of his injuries.
Well, this is just tragic news that I heard about early this morning. I wanted to come up here and learn exactly what happened, whether there are any lessons to be learned, but our hearts go out to the family and friends of the deceased.
Officials say more than 20 trucks and between 70 and 80 firefighters attended the scene, given the fact it was a multi-unit institution with higher occupancy. But the fire was quickly doused, and Toronto Fire was able to ventilate the scene quickly, so no residents were displaced.
I want to thank fire services for their prompt response and for containing the fire.
While Toronto Fire says it can't say yet how the fire started, officials want people to be mindful of
open flames, being careful with candles, making sure your smoke detectors are all operating, and carbon monoxide detectors working and operating on all levels.
The Ontario Fire Marshal's office is investigating. A Toronto fire investigator is also probing the cause of the blaze. In the meantime, the division commander extended the Toronto Fire Service's condolences to the man's family and friends. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Natalie.
Okay, thank you, Janice. And a woman pulled from a burning home in Malvern 2 days before Christmas has died. Jennifer Sosa Max says her aunt, Rebecca Sosa, died yesterday. Her uncle, Amadeo Sosa, remains in hospital in critical condition. The couple has 3 daughters, including 2 who also lived in the house that caught fire, but they were not home at the time. The blaze broke out at the couple's home on Snowball Crescent near Shepherd and Markham Road just before 5:30 a.m. on December 23rd. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Meanwhile, one firefighter was injured while responding to a house fire near Midland and Steeles early this morning. Flames broke out at a residence on Shallowford Court around 3:30 a.m. Fire crews say everyone inside the home was able to get out safely. There has been no word on the severity of the firefighters' injuries. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
A man has been arrested in connection with a fatal stabbing in Liberty Village on Boxing Day. 32-year-old Marcel Cardiff was stabbed near Joe Schuster Way in King Street West on Friday evening. He later died in hospital. 37-year-old Matthew Brown has been charged with second-degree murder in Cardiff's death. And 2 people have been charged with murder in connection with a fatal stabbing in Brampton. 26-year-old Jaden Brett Hughes of Mississauga and 31-year-old Tandiaka Fraser of Brampton have been charged with second-degree murder. The pair are accused in the stabbing death of a 32-year-old man inside a home near Main Street North and Church Street East on December 26th. Peel police say they believe the incident is isolated and they are not looking for any additional suspects.
Durham Regional Police have arrested a man they describe as a high-risk offender. 52-year-old Matthew Donald Adlam was taken into custody on December 27th following reports of a man committing an indecent act on a Durham Region transit bus. Adlam was also charged in connection with a similar incident on December 16th. Durham police say he had recently been released after serving a sentence for multiple sexual assault-related offenses. And Peel police have arrested and charged a Brampton man in connection with a stolen vehicle. Police released this dashcam video that shows one of their cruisers being struck by a stolen transport truck. It happened on December 22nd when officers attempted to apprehend the driver at Williams Parkway and Humber West Parkway. The truck had been stolen the day before from a repair shop near East Drive and Torbram Road. 42-year-old Nirmal Singh has been arrested in connection with the incident and is facing numerous theft and driving-related offenses. Singh is a Canada-wide suspended driver.
Peel police are investigating an arson at a plaza in Brampton over the weekend. A man who works in one of the affected businesses, who did not want to be identified, spoke about the situation this morning.
I'm Tonino's Pizzeria, and we got a pretty high damage from our walls that caved in. That's caused a lot of damage in our dining area. Other than that, that's about it.
Police say they were called to the plaza near McLaughlin Road and Beauvair Drive just after 3 a.m. on Sunday. No injuries were reported as a result of the fire. Police have not provided any information about possible suspects. Meanwhile, one person is in custody following a fire at a passport office in North York. It happened at a Service Canada Passport Centre on Yonge Street near Shepherd just after 11 a.m. Flames broke out in a third-floor lobby, but were quickly put out by the sprinkler system. One person was assessed for injuries at the scene. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
Police are searching for a man accused of attempting to light a woman's jacket on fire at Kennedy subway station on Sunday morning.
The woman was not injured, and the suspect fled the area immediately after he attempted to do so. Now, we are taking this investigation very seriously, and we have released a couple images of a suspect. The suspect is described as 25 to 30 years old. He was wearing a black jacket, gray pants, and black running shoes, and carrying a red bag. So we are asking anyone who recognizes this person to give us a call or leave an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers.
Officers have released these images of the suspect. They say a public safety alert remains in effect as investigators continue their search for the suspect.
And still to come, U.S. President Donald Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. We'll have more on their discussion a little later in the newscast.
But first, the new year will bring new rules to protect people from deadly carbon monoxide leaks. Starting on January 1st, carbon monoxide alarms will be mandatory on every floor of a home under the Ontario Fire Code. The alarms must be outside every bedroom, but will also be required on floors without bedrooms. In multi-unit residential buildings, there must be alarms in every suite and in hallways.
The Ontario SPCA is celebrating a major milestone. The organization says it met its Home for the Holidays adoption campaign goal, helping more than 500 animals find homes across the province.
We want to say thank you so much to our community. Thank you to our teams, to our supporters, to our adopters, for helping us meet this incredible adoption goal this holiday season. We successfully adopted out 688 animals across the province between December 1st and the 24th this year. And we are just so absolutely thrilled by being able to give this many animals a second chance.
The campaign focused on finding families for animals of all ages, including senior pets. The SPCA says 688 animals were placed in new homes, but is also encouraging those looking for a pet to consider adoption. Well, New Year's Eve is just a couple of days away, and the city has offered a preview of how it plans to ring in 2026.
The big celebration will take place at the Harbourfront Centre, complete with live performances and fireworks. And that is where we find CTV's Beth McDonnell with a look at what we can expect along the waterfront. Beth.
Natalie, Pauline, the City of Toronto and Harbourfront Centre have a very special New Year's Eve party planned. Expect lots of family fun, music, dancing, and beautiful fireworks. The fiery voice of pop sensation Lou Calla will headline the music and entertainment at Harbourfront Stage New Year's Eve. The show kicks off at 10 p.m., just steps from the skating rink, Winterfest, and food options.
This year, we're offering a vibrant, family-friendly way to ring in the new year that's free, accessible, and brings people together.
Playful electronic indie band Cootie Catcher will also perform ahead of the big 10-minute fireworks show at midnight. The best places to see colors fly, in addition to Harbourfront, are the Toronto Music Garden, Shoreburn Commons, Sugar Beach, HTO Park, and HTO Park West, along with Harbour Square Park. After the fireworks at midnight, the celebration continues here at Harbourfront. A DJ will spin for a dance party until 1 a.m. The city encourages people to take public transit as several road closures around the waterfront will be in effect. To get everyone to and from home, the TTC Go and Up Express are offering free service from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. The last subways northbound on Line 1 are leaving from Union towards Finch Station at 2:31 a.m. and towards Vaughan Metropolitan Centre Station at 2:27 a.m. While Blue Night buses will run overnight, the TTC says demand isn't there on New Year's to have trains run 24 hours.
We know that in the past few years that's worked very well to have the trains running a bit later, with those extensions at lines 2 and 4 even later than that.
But not everyone will be out looking for a way out of the core.
We're closing up. We're too old for that now. And I'll tell you, if it's weather like this, we're definitely staying inside.
Maybe a dinner party type of thing out by Roncy.
My plans are to go down the Lucky Clover, just have a quiet few drinks and then watch all the fireworks down here.
To avoid crowding at Union, the TTC says King and Queen stations are also good options to head north, and special Queen's Quay buses are being added on Jarvis to Sherbourne Station and Spadina to Bathurst Station. The city says be ready for winter weather. The party is a rain or shine event.
Unless, of course, it's not safe for us to go forward. I think back to the past few years, we've had heavy snow, we've had quite a bit of rain, and we also had quite a few people down here having a great time.
So come dressed and come prepared to ring in 2026. The evening here at Harbourfront Centre is hosted by the Mayor, Olivia Chow, Michaela Couture, and our very own Jessica Smith. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Natalie, back to you.
Can't wait. Thank you, Beth. And we'll have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look down at Nathan Phillips Square on this Monday night. A very busy rink, even though it is very cold out there, and it is windy, and we have flurries in the forecast, too, for the final few days of December. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess, tell us more about the lake effect snow and what more is on the way.
The lake effect snow machine is doing its very best. When you have kind of warmer waters, relatively warmer waters below, and you have colder air aloft and a northwesterly wind, you put that recipe together, that makes lake effect snow. So that machine is going to be firing up on and off as we head throughout the next kind of 2 to 3 days. So just keep that in mind. The good news is we do get a bit of a break tomorrow and then just in time for the fireworks on New Year's Eve. But right now we're still holding on to those wind warnings here in the city. I do expect them to drop as we head through the overnight. And still looking at some snow squall warnings, some freezing rain warnings, and winter storm warnings areas north of us and then out towards Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. Still a lot of folks off right now and traveling, so just keep that in mind if you're heading anywhere outside of the GTA. Temperature-wise, though, it's still pretty fresh out there, but those folks out there at the rink at Nathan Phillips Square, if you're moving, it kind of helps a little bit to keep things warmer as you're out in temperatures like this, and dressing accordingly, always a good idea. Temperature-wise, through the islands, we're at -6, feeling like -16, through Pearson, -7, feeling like -17, and tonight, we're not actually that far off the seasonal mark, but you factor in that wind chill and it is frigid, feeling like -18 with those gusty northwesterly winds. It does get a little better coming up. We'll have a full look at your long range forecast. We'll break down New Year's Eve and what you can expect for the first few days of 2026, which begins on Thursday. Wild. Hopefully this helps you plan. Right now, I'll send things back over to Natalie and Pauline.
Okay, thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Well, it has been a whirlwind year in provincial politics with a rare winter election, the ongoing trade war with the U.S., and opposition parties trying to find their footing under a third majority PC government.
CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris sat down with NDP leader Merritt Stiles to look back at what Stiles calls a surprising year.
Look, I'm fed up.
The NDP leader's exasperation loud as the year wound down.
It is the endless grift of a anti-democratic and, yes, corrupt government.
An accusation out of bounds in parliamentary debate, enough to get Merritt Stiles kicked out of the legislature.
All right, let's go.
She's been trying to make noise after a rough ride in a winter election called early.
Well, yeah, it was a tough one, no question.
New Democrats had less than 19% of all the votes cast, but with enough seats to form the official opposition. At the party's convention in September, a sobering moment for Stiles, receiving only 68% support in a review of her leadership.
We need to make change in this party.
Shaking up her team with the new chief of staff who's worked with NDP premiers in Alberta and Manitoba.
She's helped defeat conservative governments, and that's our intention here.
That hill is steep, with progressive conservatives enjoying a healthy lead in the polls. The NDP a distant third behind the leaderless Liberals. Stiles has been trying to chip away, focusing on potential preferential treatment by the Minister of Labour in handing out Skills Development Fund grants.
It's outrageous. I've never seen anything like it.
Needling at the Premier, who used to rail against the government gravy train.
And now he's conducting it. You know, toot toot, all aboard.
Stiles says that frustration is genuine.
I see government programs that are set up to do great things, like train people for jobs that we need and that they need, going to increasingly insiders, donors to the Conservative Party.
She's frustrated too by what she sees as a government without spark.
During the election, it was like, you know, Team Canada, all in, elbows up, let's go. Where is that? Where did it go?
With 1,000 workers at Algoma Steel soon to be laid off, an uncertain future for auto workers, Stiles says Ontario should be looking at taking a stake in key companies and industries.
Other provinces do it. We have done it in Ontario before. We have saved jobs. We have saved mills. We could be doing that right now.
To light a brighter path for 2026 and beyond. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Well, it is quiet this week at Toronto City Hall, but as usual, the rest of the year was anything but.
From taxes and transit to snow removal and shelters, there were many changes at the municipal level that affect the way services are delivered and paid for in this city. I sat down with two other City Hall watchers, John Moore of News Talk 1010 and CB24's Nick Dixon, to look back on the policy and the politics of 2025.
Let's talk about municipal affairs. There was plenty going on in the City of Toronto this year, and we are right now in this segment taking a look at 2025. My name is John Moore from News Talk 1010. What a pleasure to be joined in studio by some friends from CP24, news anchors Natalie Johnson and Nick Dixon. Okay, so let's start actually as every year, and you know, when we look forward a little later on, perhaps we'll start with the budget there as well. But the budget this year, it's Nick, I'll start with you. It's a forever struggle because we can never seemingly balance the books. They can never seemingly find anything to cut. And then we go begging to other jurisdictions for money.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we've been in the state where the first two budgets under Mayor Olivia Chow have been pretty big tax increases, 9.5 and then a 6.5, you know, year after year. And again, that, like you said, we haven't seen a whole lot cut. We've seen promises of expanded library hours and other school food programs or things along those lines. But what we haven't seen is the ability to sort of trim or find savings in these budgets. And so I think Torontonians are likely thinking to themselves, well, what does this mean for next year? And where is this budget? Where is this going to be going? Because people just, quite frankly, can't grasp where the city's finances are. It's tough for us as reporters and anchors.
Well, Natalie, it always seems like we can never find anything to cut. And then we end up with programs that I think are nice to have, but not necessarily demonstrably the city's business. Like, I'm sure you've had the mayor trot out her children's lunch program 100 times on your show, as she has on mine.
I think there's a lot of questions about whether things like the student nutrition program does fall under the auspices of municipal government. When you talk about the tax hike, you know, 9.5% 2 years ago, that was the biggest hike since amalgamation, and then we had 6.9% this past year. You know, the overall effect is that Torontonians are paying a lot more in taxes. You add in the last year of John Tory's term, we're looking at upwards of 20% over the last 3 years. And so the question that the Torontonians are asking here is, we are paying more. Are we seeing that play out in the level of services that are being offered by City Hall?
Let's talk about a theme that I think we saw a lot this year, and that is, you know, things that weren't working. And we can go back, for example, to the snow removal. And yes, there were 3 massive storms in a row. But Nick, when the mayor continued to insist that everything was fine and, you know, then finally called a press conference and threw everybody under the bus who worked for the city, it was not one of her shining moments.
No, and that was one of the more shocking situations, right? When we heard about, you know, calls not being answered, like 99% of calls to City Hall complaining about snow not getting answered, or the fact that the equipment was breaking down left and right and wasn't working. I mean, I even circle back to when John Tory left and when Mayor Chow was ultimately elected, all we heard about was Toronto was broken, which was kind of something that came out of left field to some people who were observers of it. And now we're seeing Toronto seems to remain broken and can't get the basics, snow clearing, i.e., and yes, there was a lot of snow, but even close to right.
Well, and Natalie, you know, extend beyond snow clearing. We have bathrooms that are not open in public parks. We have the encampments, which we'll treat as a separate topic altogether. We had a heat wave where they closed the pools because it was too hot for the lifeguards, and people were just putting palm to forehead.
Well, you know, the political narrative at City Hall these days from the opposition is if the city can't plow the roads in the winter and keep the pools open in the summer, what are we doing here, given the level of taxes that Torontonians are paying right now? And so we've had audits look into some of these issues, like the snow clearing removal, for example. You know, contracts that were signed in which snow clearing was included, but snow removal was not. We've had the mayor blame these contracts that were signed under the previous administration. But ultimately, over and over again, there are signs pointing to systemic failures where there's a lack of oversight, either at the staff level or higher up at the mayor's office, that continue to lead to a lot of these issues that really touch Torontonians directly every single day. I mean, when you're talking about seniors stranded in their homes because the sidewalks are impassable, you know, that is something that Torontonians will care about and probably will be thinking about next year.
And Nick, I think 2025 officially was the year where the mayor could no longer say, I inherited this, I inherited that. I mean, she had to own it.
At some point, you have to, right? And, you know, certainly she had that opportunity, I think, to blame the previous administration. But yeah, at this point, you get to the point where you've been calling the shots. You've been putting your priorities forward. You know, she runs the executive. She puts the priority items forward at City Hall week to week, month to month. At some point, it becomes hers.
And I think everybody understands that these things don't turn around overnight. But you can only promise a more robust response so many months after months until you're actually expected to deliver on it.
All right. Well, I hate to be such an Eeyore, but let's go to another file where things aren't necessarily working, and that would be the TTC. And I know that we can, you know, the mayor on my show said, listen, it's not my fault Eglinton Crosstown is behind schedule or the Finch line was handed over so late. That was Metrolinx. However, when it comes to the TTC and its on-time performance, you know, it is not a particularly pleasant thing. It's riding the red rocket ain't fun.
Well, and I think there's also a safety concern that a lot of riders are considering at this point as well. You know, we've heard the analogy about transit takers standing with their backs to the wall in the subway stations. And that is the reality that a lot of people are feeling, even if it's not, you know, actually playing out. It's the perception, which is, you know, almost as big of an issue when it comes to ridership levels. And as ridership declines, the fare box revenue drops as well. You have less money to fuel the system. And so the question here is, you know, how do you get people back on transit? And of course, that addresses the traffic issue as well.
It felt to me a lot like that Spider-Man meme where there's all the different Spider-Mans pointing at each other. That's kind of the vibe I got from TTC, Metrolinx, Transit, Province, you know, City. It was all sort of your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault, but no one was actually, the buck never stopped anywhere as much as the service did stop in many places.
Although Olivia Chow will trumpet that she did not raise the fares. Also, we moved effectively social workers into the system, police into the system, more guards. And there was sort of not a declaration necessarily, but Nick, that it's not an extension of the homeless shelter system anymore.
Yeah, right. And I think that makes a lot of sense, getting the social workers into the system, because if you ride the system, and I don't even ride it that regularly, but you do see incidences of, you know, emotionally disturbed people or people on there just sort of stirring it up, to use a polite term, right? And so you get these instances, which plays exactly what Natalie just said about when safety is an issue, when the perception is this isn't safe, I don't feel comfortable, then that cycle, that vicious cycle of lower ridership and everything begins. So I understand the concept there of getting that on there. Whether or not that's going to draw enough people back on to maintain these fare freezes for the last several years will be, for 2026, could be a story.
Yeah, 2025, one more year of encampments. And I know Natalie, the mayor, again, will insist we were slowly streets to homes getting people out of the camps. But I think a lot of Torontonians think, how long is this going to go on? It's been 5 years.
Well, the administration's official approach on this is a compassionate approach where they offer outreach and assistance instead of actually clearing these encampments out for the most part. We did see a call in the fall from Brad Bradford, who was running for mayor, to declare a no-go zone 200 meters around daycares, schools, and playgrounds. This went to council. Council ultimately deciding that 50 meters would be the radius that they would work with on that. And there is going to be 3 offers of shelter to the people who are living in encampments before they are cleared out, essentially. But you know, this goes to the broader question of housing in the city. It's been a major challenge for City Hall to build the shelters that are going to be available to the people who would otherwise be living in these encampments. So, you know, the housing portfolio overall is one that is probably the #1 challenge.
And even conditions in shelters too. I mean, you do hear from people in these encampments, they feel safer, more secure in an encampment than in a city-run shelter.
Not a lot of time, but very quickly from both of you, a good year for crime, if we can classify it that way. Natalie, I mean, we're about half the number of homicides, but another terrible year of anti-Semitism and relentless protests.
And we've seen the police budget completely completely drained, from the staffing requirements that are needed for these protests, that have really proliferated throughout the city. Huge increase in intimidation and anti-Semitism, certainly, that led to the bubble zone discussion at City Hall. So there are some new parameters in place for places of worship, for example, that can apply to have this protective area around their establishments. But, as we continue to see these incidents unfold, it's clear that it is still a major problem in this city.
Yeah. And if I could really just add really quickly, what we saw in Australia just recently really speaks to exactly those issues. We're going to hear so much more of that next year, too.
Thank you so much for this. Good to talk. That is Nick Dixon and Natalie Johnson from CP24. I'm John Moore, normally at News Talk 1010.
To federal politics now, and as we head into the new year, a new poll shows the Liberals and Conservatives in a dead heat for voter support.
There's been a lot of movement in Quebec lately. The Bloc Québécois are now a very strong second. Liberals used to enjoy a 15-point lead in Quebec. It's now down to 4 points. Then when we look at British Columbia, the Liberals for the last few months have been leading in British Columbia by 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 points. Now it's the Conservatives who are ahead by 5. So even though the numbers look better for the Liberals here than last week, the numbers are actually more challenging because at the regional level, where the actual seats are won, the Conservatives are doing better with the vote that they've got.
According to the Liaison Tracking Survey, which polled 1,000 Canadians, the Liberals gained a single percentage point to sit at 39% support nationally. Meanwhile, the Conservatives were down by 1% to sit at 37% support. The 2-point gap falls within the poll's margin of error, which means the parties are in a statistical tie. Prime Minister Mark Carney's approval rating was 56%.
The U.S. president held a high-stakes meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago this afternoon amid concerns over a fragile ceasefire in Gaza.
The meeting happened on the same day a group of Canadian activists called for sanctions after they were denied entry into the West Bank 2 weeks ago, along with half a dozen MPs. With more, here is CTV's John Vanavelli-Rao.
Far from Donald Trump's meeting in Florida, in Gaza today, displaced Palestinians trying to survive a harsh winter offered mixed opinions about whether the meeting might amount to much. This man saying everyone's exhausted, cold, and urging the U.S. president to get his peace deal moving on to the next stage and eventually reconstruction.
Gaza's a tough place.
Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking with reporters, saying Gaza was among 5 major subjects to be discussed. Trump said he hoped to move to phase 2 of the ceasefire plan quickly, but adding Hamas must disarm. He also suggested the U.S. would consider further military action against Iran if the country tries to rebuild its nuclear program.
Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's not happening. I heard Iran wants to make a deal.
Meanwhile, in Ottawa, a group of activists held a press conference after they were stopped by Israel at this border crossing 2 weeks ago, trying to enter the occupied West Bank from Jordan. Along with 6 MPs, the group, sponsored by the nonprofit The Canadian Muslim Vote, planned to observe conditions there, but was denied entry for what the Israeli Defense Ministry said were security reasons.
This denial of access is not an isolated incident. It is a small sample of the systematic control and intimidation that Palestinians face every single day under occupation.
The group noting that Israel's security cabinet recently approved the recognition of 19 new settlements in the West Bank, which Canada considers illegal under international law, and calling for sanctions on items that come from them.
Any settlement product that's developed and sold should be barred from Canada.
As for whether that Canadian delegation will try to go back to the West Bank, today they said they'd like to, but aren't sure what will happen next. John Vanavelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Ukraine says Russian claims that it tried to attack one of Vladimir Putin's residences are baseless and designed to undermine peace negotiations. The Kremlin offered no evidence for the attempted drone attack on the Russian president's home west of Moscow. It says all of the Ukrainian drones were destroyed by air defenses and there was no damage. Putin later told Donald Trump in a phone call today that Russia will review its negotiating stance in ceasefire talks. Ukraine's president called the attack claim another round of lies from the Russian Federation.
The United States has pledged $2 billion in assistance to people in more than a dozen countries next year. The aid will be overseen by the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Office. The U.S. State Department described it as a new model of assistance that is intended to make funding and delivery more efficient. Today's announcement follows major foreign aid cuts by the Trump administration this year.
China staged military drills today designed to encircle Taiwan. The maneuvers are seen as an attempt by Beijing to showcase an ability to cut off the island from outside support. In a conflict, the exercises will continue tomorrow across a record 7 zones. That makes the drills the largest to date by total coverage and in areas closer to Taiwan than previous exercises. Taiwan rejects China's claimed sovereignty.
In Nova Scotia, a luxury condo development is being built inside a Cold War-era nuclear shelter. Renovation of the 2-story underground bunker started less than a year ago and has already attracted attention from several potential buyers. The 64,000-square-foot bomb shelter was built in 1964. About $8 million has been invested in the new project so far, but the price range for the 50 condo units is only revealed to those who have proven they can afford one.
Still ahead, Mo Bamba has become the newest member of the Toronto Raptors. We'll have more on the team's big signing when we come back.
And plenty of places to watch the fireworks on New Year's Eve right across the city. It is going to be cold, no surprise there, but the good news is the snow likely to hold off as we bring in the new year. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll break down how cold it is going to get New Year's Eve, what you can expect New Year's Day, and how we step into 2026 when it comes to your forecast, and finally seeing a little more sunshine. I'll have your full forecast coming up right after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Well, if you still haven't finalized any New Year's Eve plans, Jessica has a big project downtown, right at the Harbourfront Centre, right?
It's going to be so much fun. So the city's official New Year's Eve party happening down at the Harbourfront is going to be a blast. Myself, Michaela Couture, we've got Lou Calla performing, Calla's Way performing, lots of really fun stuff. So, and it's my favorite price to come down, which is free.
But it'll be cold.
It is outside. And as a person who is very much a fan of the summertime heat, we can all get through it together. The good news is the snow will hold off. We do have snow throughout the kind of mid-afternoon as we head into New Year's Eve, but the good news is as we head towards about 10 p.m., that holds off. So bundle up, and the key to staying warm is dancing, I've heard. So make sure you do tons of that regardless of where you are on New Year's Eve. Throughout the day today, though, lots of wind out there. It is, I'm going to say fresh. It is very fresh outside, and the wind is going to continue for a good portion of the evening. The good news is it has gotten a little lighter as we've made our way in towards the 6 o'clock hour. And we will likely see a lot of those wind warnings drop off as we head through the overnight and into the start of the day tomorrow. Clear for now, but we've seen lake effect snow on and off throughout the day. We have those relatively warmer, lake temperatures and then the cooler air above and the northwesterly wind all making that lake effect snow machine do what it does best. But it is chilly as we head through the rest of our evening. Tonight we'll drop down to around -8. Not far off the seasonal point, but you factor in the wind chill, significantly cooler and still a breezy northwesterly wind. We're just not in wind warning criteria as we head through the overnight. Into the day tomorrow, again, fairly seasonal, -3, feeling like -10. We get a small break of sunshine midday before the cloud cover and the lake effect snow continues, but overall, we're not too far off that seasonal point. We had a low pressure system that pushed its way past us. It brought tons of lake effect snow and tons of wind. Still under that wind warning for us here in the city right now. In the statement a little bit further east, we've seen some of the snow squall warnings drop in towards Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, but still dealing with that lake effect snow overnight. That first low pushed its way through. Behind it, a stationary front. And what they do is what the name says, they sit stationary. So it's going to sit over us as we head throughout the day tomorrow and likely into the beginning of Wednesday, bringing again that lake effect snow. As we head through the rest of our evening, again, heavier towards those eastern shorelines like Huron and Georgian Bay, areas just east of the downtown core, say Richmond Hill-ish area. You're looking at some more lake effect snow into the early part of your evening. And then we get in towards our Tuesday morning. Again, breaks of sunshine, a little bit of a reprieve from that lake effect snow machine. We get into our Tuesday night, though. We watch for more lake effect snow to continue. And then as we head into our Wednesday, more lake effect snow, you guessed it. Heavier as we head into that midpoint of our day, but the bulk of it really pushes out as we head in towards 7 to 8 p.m. And then overnight, we welcome in 2026, maybe perhaps with myself and Michaela Couture down at the harbor front. It'll be cold, but it will be fantastic with all of the fireworks. Now, temperature-wise, I'll be honest, friends, it is going to be cold New Year's Eve, no matter where you are. So bundle up accordingly. And as we head in towards the first day of 2026, chilly as well, but at least some sunshine. We'll see a daytime high of -6. It will feel much colder than that, and that overnight low, again, fairly seasonal at -8, but feeling closer to kind of that -15, -17 range. The good news, though, as we get in towards the first few days of 2026, it is fairly seasonal with a little bit of sunshine here and there. Hopefully this helps you plan. Natalie, I'll send things back over to you.
Okay, pack your party hats and your snow pants. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
Well, in sports, the Toronto Raptors will go for their second straight win tonight after kicking off a 5-game homestand.
Walter, B.I., the three, no,
Scotty Barnes matched a franchise record with a career-high 25 rebounds as Toronto beat the Golden State Warriors 141-127 in overtime yesterday. The win snapped a 5-game home losing streak. This evening, the Orlando Magic will be in town, sitting just a half game behind Toronto for 4th in the Eastern Conference. Meanwhile, the Raptors confirmed today they have signed 7-foot center Mo Bamba. Terms of the deal were not disclosed. His addition gives Toronto some size up front as a starting center. Jacob Poeltl recovers from a back injury. Bamba, has played for 5 teams during 7 seasons in the NBA. This year, he put up solid numbers while playing 14 games for the Salt Lake City Stars, the G League affiliate of the Utah Jazz.
The heavily favored Canadians say they will not be looking past Denmark in tonight's game at the World Junior Hockey Championship.
Page trying to slap pass it back. Wonders McKenna looks back across. They score!
Canada is undefeated in its first 2 round-robin games in Minnesota. They beat Latvia on the weekend and Czechia on Boxing Day. So far, the Canadians trail Finland for the lead in Group B. Tonight's opponent, Denmark, has lost both of its games and was defeated 13-2 by Canada in pre-tournament action. Puck drop is shortly after 8:30.
To soccer, and a proposed settlement has been reached in a class action lawsuit that stemmed from a Vancouver Whitecaps match last year. The game was against the defending champion Inter Miami in BC. It drew more than 51,000 fans, but later about 3,000 of them signed a petition calling for refunds. The petition said images of superstar Lionel Messi and other Miami players were used to promote the match, leading to increased ticket demand and premium pricing. But those players were not in the lineup for the game. Major League Soccer was also sued. The defendants deny any wrongdoing.
In Dubai, FIFA's president defended ticket prices for next year's World Cup today, pointing to heavy demand.
In 15 days, we received 150 million ticket requests. 150 million ticket requests. So 10 million ticket requests every single day. This shows how powerful the World Cup is.
Earlier this month, fans criticized ticket prices, which can cost several times more than they did for the last World Cup. The president also insisted today that revenue from the tournament is reinvested in soccer around the world.
Still to come tonight, concerns about online advice regarding babies and sleep. Some of the tips and tricks being offered to new parents can actually put kids at risk. Pat Foran will have the details when we come back. Well, if you've ever stayed up all night with a baby trying to do anything to get them to sleep, you know there is a wealth of tips and tricks online offering sleep advice for new parents.
But experts warn you can't trust everything you read on social media. Strategies shared by influencers, AI chatbots, and even retailers can confuse parents and put babies at risk. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert.
Shayna Raphael's journey to become a sleep safety advocate began with a tragedy.
Claire's death absolutely was preventable.
Her daughter Claire died at daycare, sleeping on a soft mattress meant for adults.
Had she been in a safe sleep environment, had she been in the crib that we thought she was sleeping in, she would be here today.
Shayna set up a nonprofit in her daughter's name, the Claire Bear Foundation. She posts safety tips and answers questions on Instagram and TikTok. But not everyone on social media has safety as their top priority. Recent studies found more than 9 out of 10 infant sleep images shared on Instagram were unsafe based on long-established scientific safe sleep guidelines. This includes babies sleeping on their stomachs or with pillows, blankets, or stuffed animals.
Sometimes we have people giving information that is in direct contrast to what those specialists and experts are saying.
And Consumer Reports says it's not just influencers sharing unsafe sleep information. Some online retailers are sending mixed messages as well.
You might see a listing online for a baby lounger that says in the description, "This is not safe for infant sleep." But next to that, you'll see a product photo with a sleeping baby in it. So which one of those is a sleep-deprived parent going to remember?
Another source of misinformation, AI chat programs sometimes recommend sleep solutions that have been linked to an increased risk of infant mortality.
Online tools like AI, search, and social media, they tend to give us the answers that we want to hear. And those might be different than what the evidence shows is actually safe.
Following safe sleep practices every night and for every nap can help keep your infant safe and prevent the risk of sleep-related deaths. Pat Foran, CTV News.
You're watching CTV News at 6. We'll have more news just ahead.
Fire safety is very important when pre-planning your fire safety with your family and at work, as well as open flames, being careful with candles, making sure your smoke detectors are all operating and carbon monoxide detectors.
Updating our top stories, an investigation is underway after an elderly man died following a fire at a North York retirement home. Flames broke out at the facility on Finch Avenue West near Bathurst shortly before 10:30 yesterday evening. The man later died in hospital. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
A man has been arrested in connection with a fatal stabbing in Liberty Village on Boxing Day. 32-year-old Marcel Cardiff was stabbed near Joe Schuster Way in King Street West on Friday evening. He later died in hospital. 37-year-old Matthew Brown has been charged with second-degree murder in Cardiff's death.
One of the highlights of the evening will be the 10-minute-long high-altitude fireworks display that takes place over Toronto's Inner Harbour.
And the city offered a preview of its New Year's Eve festivities today. In addition to a fireworks display, the celebration will feature a variety of performances as well as skating.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know. More turmoil within Lululemon to end the year as Lululemon founder Chip Wilson pushes for a board shakeup. BNN Bloomberg's Lindsay Biscaya has more.
It's the latest push by Lululemon founder and the company's biggest shareholder, Chip Wilson. Wilson has nominated 3 director candidates to the company's board and says he believes shareholders won't trust any CEO that's picked by the current board. This comes after Calvin McDonald, the outgoing CEO, announced he will be stepping down in the new year. Well, the price of silver slid 7% today after topping $80 US an ounce for the first time in overnight trading. The precious metal is up 155% year to date. Economists believe the decline we're seeing today is mostly due to profit taking after a strong seasonal rally. And here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar dropped to $73.04. West Texas Intermediate is up to $57.82. Western Canadian Select is unchanged at $44.94. And the TSX lost 103 points today, closing just under 32,000. Those are your business headlines. I'm Lindsay Biscaya.
And coffee prices continue to percolate in Canada. The latest data shows shoppers paid almost 28% more at grocery stores in November compared to a year ago. The price of unroasted coffee beans has increased significantly over the past 3 years. Experts say climate change, drought, and crop disease have disrupted the global coffee supply, and the higher prices are likely to continue.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
And still to come, saying good riddance to 2025. We'll have more on New York City's annual Good Riddance Day when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
New Yorkers and tourists gathered in Times Square to mark the 19th annual Good Riddance Day. The event is organized by the Times Square Alliance and One Times Square, the co-organizers of the city's New Year's Eve celebration. It sees people write down bad memories or thoughts from 2025 on a Broadway show-style ticket before tearing them up to signify a fresh start for the new year.
And we are saying good riddance to the weather warnings, right,
Yes.
Jess?
A lot of the wind warnings have dropped, which is good news. It's still breezy outside, but we're not in wind warning criteria, which makes it maybe a little more manageable to spend some time outside. But the folks behind us skating at Nathan Phillips Square enjoying themselves regardless. With the right winter layers, almost anything is possible, but you got to be safe when you're spending time outside. Now, temperature-wise, still pretty fresh as we head in towards the evening. Still watching for lake effect snow on and off. Not so much for the downtown core, but it's not out of the question to see maybe a few bursts of flurries here and there through the early part of our evening. Again, a lot of those wind warnings have dropped. We expect more as we head in towards the evening, but still dealing with some snow squall warnings in those exact same areas. Again, we don't have the wind warnings, but we still have the snow and the lake effect snow. Temperature-wise, it is fresh, -7, feeling like -17. So if you are going to go skating at Nathan Phillips Square, a layer or two important. As we head in towards our day tomorrow, a few peaks of sunshine midday, but it doesn't last too long. But looking ahead to New Year's Eve, yes, it's a little cool, but you know what? It's going to be all right. We're going to have a great time. It'll be fun.
Keep dancing. Just keep dancing.
Yes.
That's right. Be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Pauline Chan with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.
Take care.